Hello, welcome back to Warning Signs. Thanks for being here with me to listen to this book that I wrote. It is my memoir about domestic violence, and I wrote it to help people heal if they have gone through it, and also to try and prevent this from happening to other people. In this episode, we will meet more of Jason's family members, and Jason and I will deepen our relationship. So it's still pretty easy going so far, and I will provide trigger warnings when it gets to be more intense, but that won't be for at least another 6 or 7 episodes. So let's just continue enjoying the ride and hearing this story. Thanks for listening. Let's get into it. Chapter 3. Falling. Jason and I quickly fell into a comfortable weekly routine. We went from spending most every night together, just the two of us, to a few nights at his apartment together, a few nights with friends, and 3 to 4 nights with his parents at their house. At first, I thought this was nice and sweet that he was so close with his parents. We went there right after we got off work at 9 p.m. But I was annoyed we never ate dinner first, and we were normally there for a few hours. I was always hungry, and Jason never seemed to care. When I brought this up on the way home one night, he said, sometimes I forget to eat. It's not a big deal. I responded, it's a big deal to me. We need to eat dinner after work. I can't wait a few hours to eat. Our bodies aren't supposed to do that. We ate lunch almost 6 hours ago. He was used to drinking a quad shot mocha for breakfast, smoking cigarettes for lunch, and eating fast food for dinner. Those 2,000 plus calories at dinner must have been enough to keep him full through the next day. I preferred to eat small vegetarian meals throughout the day, so we had a hard time understanding each other's metabolisms. Eventually, he said he agreed to allow us a few minutes to stop by a grocery store and get something to eat on the way to his parents' house. Once we did that, my mood and interactions with his family improved. Things were going really well, and I liked getting to know his family. The more I fell in love with Jason, the more I wanted to know the people that raised him. I loved our casual evenings together, yet in the back of my mind, I desired a romantic date. I wanted to dress up and eat a nice meal and gaze into each other's eyes across the table. We hadn't done that yet. I said to him at work, hey, so I think we've been dating for about a month now. When do you think is our 1 month anniversary? Oh, late July, early August? I don't know the date. That's what I was thinking too, but it would be nice to have a real date on the calendar and a real romantic date. Maybe we can look at receipts from the first night we went to happy hour? Proud and determined, he practically shouted, I don't keep receipts, but we can check bank statements. Great idea, honey. You're a genius. I investigated and then exclaimed with glee, July 28th. Great teamwork. So, okay. August 28th is next weekend. Let's celebrate. Let's go have an actual date and celebrate. We went out for dinner and drinks and had a great time laughing and talking. That night, I realized how happy he made me. We looked into each other's eyes and I squeaked out a whisper, I love you. He looked at me with surprise and delight and asked, You love me? I lowered my eyes and nodded, then looked up with hopeful hesitation. He grinned and replied, I love you too. That was it. Nothing could stop us from being together. I also realized that if we were going to be together, I needed to voice my opinions. I enjoyed spending time with his family, but a few nights a week with them and once every other week with mine wasn't fair. I finally spoke up. Hey, can we see my family more often? I like visiting with your family, but I miss mine. But they're almost an hour away. It's too late to see them after work, he complained. I know, but we could see them on weekends, I persisted. Okay, yeah, I guess we could do that. The following weekend, we visited my parents and we all had a great time. I appreciated the way he listened to me and took actions to make changes. Life with Jason was great. Once we fixed the eating issue and spent time with my parents, I still couldn't understand why it bothered me to spend so much time with his parents. We could have spent time together with friends, with my family, adventuring. The possibilities seemed endless yet fruitless. I felt my sense of comfort taking over and my sense of adventure slipping. A few weeks later, I asked him, Do you think it's normal to spend so much time with your parents as an adult? I'm close with my parents, but even when we lived in the same city, we saw each other weekly. not 3 to 4 times per week. Yeah, of course it's normal. I love them, so why wouldn't I want to spend more time with them? I love you, and I see you every day. Is that weird? I guess not then, I replied, not totally sold on his answer. The next week, I realized it wasn't just the frequency that frustrated me. Jason's dad, Adam, and Cassie, his mom, held different religious and political opinions than I, and I felt like they thought their viewpoints were the only valid ones. Jason fell somewhere in the middle of us all. I didn't judge them for our differences, though I did have some challenges with not being able to calmly share opposing opinions. It was the fall of 2009, and Congress was debating the ACA, the Affordable Care Act. Adam and Cassie were furious about it. Jason tried to look at it from both sides and refrained from sharing his opinion. I believed, and still do, that we need universal health care, and the ACA was a step in the right direction. Adam said, "This is just going to make it harder for businesses to stay afloat since they have to pay for their employees' health care." I defended the ACA. "What about all of the good it will do, though? I think it's fantastic that everyone will have health insurance. And I'm sure the business owners will find a way to make things work. CEOs make millions of dollars, so they just need to spend some of that money on others instead of themselves." Adam was outraged I would say such a thing. "Those CEOs worked hard to be where they are. They deserve what they make. And what about the smaller companies where the CEOs don't make as much money?" he said, practically snarling at me with disgust for not understanding the plight of the business owners. He went on to explain Cassie and his views. He said they thought everything should be privatized to create market competition and therefore provide plenty of low cost choices. They said they agreed everyone should receive healthcare, but the government didn't have the right to affect how the healthcare companies do business nor force businesses to provide it. I didn't think the ACA was perfect, though I knew it could help a lot of people. My close friend Eric had one of the largest hearts of anyone I knew. He was also born with an enlarged heart and died the year after the ACA went in effect. He changed jobs and wasn't able to get health insurance because he had a pre existing condition and therefore wasn't able to get his prescription medicine. His fiancee found him on the floor one day. She later told me Eric had been getting his prescriptions through a friend who was a black market drug dealer. He couldn't reach his dealer that week. If the ACA had been in effect just a few months prior, Eric might still be alive today. So, when Jason's parents argued that people should continue to access healthcare through their jobs, I vehemently disagreed and didn't hold back from saying so. This conversation was a year prior to Eric's death, yet I still understood the principle of equal access. It seemed Adam spoke for his entire family, and he simply echoed sentiments from his favorite news channel. I was furious. "Are you saying that the people who don't work for large enough companies to receive healthcare don't work hard? They don't deserve healthcare? Besides, if your concern is for smaller businesses, the law says those with under 50 employees don't have to pay for health insurance." I admit I was probably looking at Adam like he was a complete idiot. He would have been an even bigger idiot if he couldn't read that on my face. However, that wasn't my intention. He turned to look at Cassie and Jason with a big sigh. He then squarely looked me in the eye and said, "Perhaps we shouldn't discuss politics." Taken aback, but still trying to be polite, I took a deep breath and said, "That's perfectly fine. We can talk about anything else." We sat in awkward silence for a couple minutes. My parents taught me to think for myself and question everything. Our political conversations deepened my knowledge of the world as we asked questions for understanding. As a 4-year-old, my most commonly used word was why. But in Jason's family, Adam echoed the news he chose to watch and then taught his family to echo his words. Jason attempted to formulate his own opinions and told me them in private. But in front of his parents, he either voiced support or nothing at all. He gave in to their desires of cohesive family opinions instead of challenging them. Jason eventually decided he would break the tension by going out for a cigarette. Even though I didn't smoke, I usually joined him outside. I enjoyed the crisp fall evening air and space away from his parents. He jumped and paced around the front yard. Suddenly, he turned to me and echoed Adam, "Maybe we shouldn't discuss politics with my parents anymore." "Yeah, I guess not," I responded with despondence. I paused to think. Then I rolled my eyes and said, I didn't realize they were more concerned with CEOs' welfare over others. Oh, no, that's not true, he insisted. My dad is in finance, so he always looks at things from a fiscal perspective. My parents are fiscally conservative and socially liberal. I'm pretty liberal too, but I do tend to lean fiscally conservative. I made my peace with agreeing to disagree. Otherwise, his parents seemed to be sweet and welcoming. The next week, Cassie, Adam, Jason, and Jason's sister Diana and I talked in the living room. Jason and Adam walked to the hallway, and I followed behind them a minute later. As I left the living room, I heard Cassie say to Diana in a perfectly clear and audible voice, I miss Stacy. She was so sweet. Diana emphatically agreed, Me too. Stacy was Jason's ex-fiancée. My heart dropped. I asked Jason about it later. Did you hear what your mom said? No. What did she say? He asked perfectly casually as though nothing happened. She said that she misses your ex, and Diana agreed. Don't you think that's a weird thing for them to say when I am here? Do they not like me? Oh no, they think you're great. You just have different opinions than they do, and they're still getting to know you. Okay, well, I don't plan to keep my mouth shut about my opinions if politics come up again, so hopefully they don't. I'm entitled to my own opinions. He rolled his eyes and took a step backwards. I narrowed my eyes at him, and he understood my look to show that I was serious. He stepped in to kiss me. I thought, this is how he shows me he loves me, even if sometimes he disagrees with me. After that, I decided it was more important to keep my political opinions to myself unless I was expressly asked, so I could get his parents to like me. I figured that even if they were a little frustrating and uncouth when expressing their political views, I still loved him, and he wasn't his parents. Chapter 3 Warning Signs. Jason did not seem to care that I needed to eat dinner after work, and it was strange that he did not feel he needed to either. When we left work and I asked him about dinner, he would always ask me to wait until after we saw his parents. But we saw them for a couple hours, so by the time we ate, I was starving. It seemed he did not notice or care about my need to eat dinner, which is a human need. The way he handled this shows me that he was selfish. A kinder person would have made sure both of our human needs were met instead of ignoring them. It should be a baseline expectation that a partner wants to make sure their partner is not hungry. I told him I loved him on our 1 month anniversary. He told me he loved me too, which at the time made me feel ecstatic. However, falling in love that quickly was a warning sign of the codependency we were already forming. He did not even consider that I would want to spend time with my family too. Once I explained that it was possible to see them on a weekend, he agreed, although it seemed like a reluctant afterthought. In this section, I wrote, I appreciated the way he listened to me and took actions to make changes. Life with Jason was great. I was grateful that he listened to me and made changes, which is nice, but in a healthy relationship with a kind person, these wouldn't have been changes we would need to make. We would have both already asked each other about the other's needs and have made decisions together. At this early in the relationship, it is a warning sign if the person is not respecting your needs and a sign they may be selfish. The political disagreement with parents could have happened in any relationship. The way that Adam and Jason told me that we shouldn't talk about it anymore, though, made me feel they were telling me to shut up. It might work for some people to just not talk about politics in their families, but this isn't how the situation made me feel. I agreed to it because I wanted to get along with his family. I ignored the way they silenced me because that felt easier. This is a warning sign that I did not listen to my intuition about feeling uneasy being silenced. Cassie and Diana's clearly audible conversation about Jason's ex-fiancée in my earshot was rude and disrespectful. Jason and I talked about it, and he made me feel better